Good morning, everyone. I mentioned, I think, on Sunday that I wanted to do start doing these also during the week for people, hoping to catch, people who don't normally get to listen and everything else. Plus, besides the fact that I see, some very familiar names in the chat. Hoping you're all doing well this morning. It's Wednesday, if you can believe it, and it seems like the world is slowly spinning out of control still. Although, you may have noticed that in some places we'll say the agents of chaos have slowed their roll, if you will, and are now, at least in some places, things are going to what might actually be called protests. And that's, I guess, okay. But the interesting thing is if you watch this, what you end up seeing is the return of the news about the affliction. It's almost as if there's an ever-ending fear campaign being waged against people, a total and complete fear campaign for the control of your mind. Now, you got to ask yourself why that is. And then I look at the calendar and I see that today is the 10th of June and that just in a few months we got something coming up in November. And then I start looking for my tinfoil hat to put on because at this point I can't really believe the things we're seeing are a coincidence, which is really weird because, again, I have a nuanced take on the person that they spread irrational hate about. But again, what do I know? So I hope you guys are, again, doing well, seeing some hellos and such in the chat. Hello to all of you guys. And yes, this is the early risers thing. I put a comment in the live chat when I set this to go schedule about, this is, have a cup of coffee, put some Irish cream in it. And, unless you're, of course, actually driving while listening, then don't do that. And then it's gone. I don't know what happened to that. So I had a letter from a bishop I wanted to read, but it's behind a paywall on a German news site. And it was one of those, I wasn't even sure if it was a good letter, but it was basically, let me see if I can find the summary, because I'll just read the article summary and because of the website it's coming from, it's Novena News. You always got to be careful with it, because if you're not familiar, it's, I think it's a more modernist page. They got a story here called Spanish Jesuits Stress Need for Truth, Justice, and Forgiveness in Madrid Trial over 1989 Massacre of Colleagues in El Salvador. Portuguese Church Commission reminds business on the affliction. Corporate social responsibility cannot be just for show. And I kind of wonder. Female Deacon Commission member warns of danger of church where women exist only in the imagination of men. Stories like that. But here we go. German bishop urges spiritual revolution. We have to break out of the prison of the perfect church. I don't know what that means. What do you mean by prison of a perfect church? But this is written by someone calling them Mada Jurado. Let's see. A German bishop is urging a spiritual revolution, saying that we have to break out of the prison of a perfect church. Criticisms of ecclesiastical professionalism. It's Bishop Hildesheim Heiner Wilmer, age 59. He issued a call in an opinion piece June 3rd in Die Zeit newspaper, in which he asked about the relevance of the church in the time of the affliction and whether Christians were really needed at all in society. In his text, which is hidden behind a paywall, otherwise I just, let him speak for himself, Wilmer suggested that the uncertainty that has emerged with the affliction is a chance to reconnect, both on a social and ecclesial level, with the primal wisdom of Christianity. The realization that the perfect life, even the perfect religious life, does not exist. Okay. Success and doubt always belong together. This was already the case with Jesus, Wilmer recalled, adding, there is no biography without cracks and no life without hard decisions. Okay, so success and doubt were already the case with Jesus. Really? I really want to know what he means by that. Viva Cristo Rey to you too, Shawnee. Laura Kelly, good morning from Australia, where it's, you are anywhere from, 16 to 18 hours ahead of us, so it's pretty late in the evening for you there. Louis de Montfort, yeah, you are probably at work. Some of you are at work. If you're on the East Coast, it's 9:49 a.m., and if you're in Europe right now, you're anywhere from, 4 in the afternoon to getting ready to get off work. Good evening to you, Ryan, in the Philippines. Catholic Cottage just went to Mass and confession. Nice. That's always a good way to start your day. John S. Abraham, well, if you're in Wisconsin, then it's almost 9 o'clock in the morning, just like it is here in central Oklahoma, where it's going to be really warm. Normally, Albheis can't normally see the stream. Well, good. I plan to try to do these at various different times during the week. I'm already trying to line up a guest to come back to my to come back on next week or for another stream. So it'll be good. Laura Kelly, yeah, I do definitely believe that that a lot of the Catholic prophecy we're unfolding is now beginning to unfold in front of our eyes. So, hooray! Yeah. Lars, it's 15:49 where you are. Well, for those of you who don't understand the 24-hour clock that most of the rest of the world uses, that means it's almost 4 o'clock. Laura Kelly, 11:40 p.m. Okay, so you are a full 15 hours ahead of us. Local election happened in Pennsylvania. It's been 1 week, and they're still counting mail-in votes. November is going to be sketchy. Yeah, Monarchist, I got to tell you, I resist vote by mail. I'm from a state that enacted vote by mail, and, the polls would always show elections were close, and then they wouldn't turn out to be close at all, usually. So I'm just telling you, and that's after they enacted vote by mail. So I don't trust it at all. Could I do a video about St. Philomena and mention my conversion a little bit in my live streams? Did that on this past Sunday, actually, a little bit, but I haven't actually gone into any real deep depth. St. Philomena, maybe I would do a Forgotten Saints video about her, but she's not a Forgotten Saint, so, for the patrons and subscribers and people who've joined the channel, I normally would try to get you guys the weekend videos today, but due to having to re-record that video that went live this morning, the Bishop Schneider thing, having to re-record his letter twice before finally giving up because our lovely hosts found it offensive. I'm a bit behind, so I still need to do my Saturday evening video, so you might not get that stuff till tomorrow. So just hang in there. Yes, it is nearly the Feast of Corpus Christi. Definitely a very good observation. I'm wondering, if any of you are in or near Corpus Christi, Texas, do they actually is there anything big that goes on in that city on that feast? I'd really like to know. Bitter Klinger, you thought I lived in Minnesota? No, and thank the Lord I don't. I live in central Oklahoma. I'm from Portland originally, so. Ernie, yeah, my parish sends out their mass invitation, our schedule sign up on Sundays at about 6 o'clock. And I have to make sure that I'm not distracted at that time and read those so I can actually get to a mass that I want to get to. So, I didn't do it until 8 o'clock this past Sunday because I forgot. And immediately the 9 a.m. mass was full. So my wife and I are going to a little bit later mass, which actually is the mass that some of my friends at our parish go to. So that'll be good. Do I think the economy will recover? Trump says it's a V-shaped recovery. Yes, I think it will recover. I'm at the point now, if anybody in the media says something doom and gloomy when it comes to what's going on, I don't believe them. Mod M or Novus Ordo Saints Valid. That's way above my pay grade. I will say that I'm anti the system that they have for canonizing people, but St. Maximilian Kolbe seems legit. In fact, one of the things I might do for Saturday would be a little lighter thing on Saturday night from St. Maximilian Kolbe that's detailing the sort of radical conversion of some, and I would say literal pagans, because the term pagan isn't a anti-term. It just literally means anybody who's not a Christian. But he's got a very interesting story about some conversion that he was involved in, and I might read that for you guys, because I have a book. I've had a book of his essays and letters for a while, and I just haven't used it for a while. Well, thank you, Laura Kelly. If you know of any approved mystics that I haven't covered yet, send me an email, or ones that I might be out of that have substantial things that could be more than a 5-minute video, that I haven't covered yet. Send me an email with a couple pointers. It's not that I'm running out of material. Probably next week or the week after, I'll present part 2 of Cardinal Manning's talk about the Antichrist. But I still like those kind of tips. And remember, I have 130-something emails in my inbox right now, so. Question somewhere. Comments were made about ethnicity of the tractor variety. People refer to all people of European ancestry as racist. We need to distinguish the good from those operatives without attacking an ethnicity. Yeah, it's a complicated question right now, What do I think is the best economy? Is also capitalism bad? It depends what you mean by capitalism. The church condemned the type of capitalism we see right now. It just did. if you read Quadragesimo Anno and Rerum Novarum and the others, basically the church said, yeah, this sort of hyper-centralized economics of socialism and capitalism, which are in function in a lot of ways indistinguishable, this utter focus on the material, is bad. That's what they said. I tend to think widespread ownership of private property is good, and the more businesses that are cooperatively run, which is what the church teaches, is good, while also not dumping on the rich. Like I don't understand this hatred of the rich the socialists have. If you want to have people if you want to be mad at people, be mad at the technocratic system and the giant bureaucracy and the corrupt politicians who make it possible. Reading For My Legionnaires. Did any Catholic leaders write something like that? Well, I've never read. I'm not sure what For My Legionnaires is, so I don't know. Oh, Total War. Your parish now has a Tridentine Mass. Very good. Katie Barron, are you in the United States? Because you should be able to go. You should be able to go onto like DuckDuckGo and type in, BitChute and then my channel name, and you should be able to find me there. Also, there is the audio only platform link that's in the pinned comments of the video of this morning. Anchor.fm is where you can find me there. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, that kind of thing. But if you're not in the United States, I almost suggest a VPN. How likely do you think this could evolve a new barbarian sack of Rome type situation? That's a good question. I'm more and more of the mind that everything we're seeing right now has to do with something coming in November. And that's really what it's about, I think. Any comments on Tim Gordon? Do you mean like his firing? I don't think anybody should be fired in the United States for expressing a political opinion. I would hope that his experience will make some people who do not support people being anonymous on the internet will give them pause and maybe reevaluate that opinion of theirs. On civil discourse, you retracted it. Okay. Morning dry stream. Hope you're not streaming and driving. No. I'm at home. I work from home, so no, I'm good. Faithful need to be instructed in the basics, fundamentals of the faith, scripture, and catechism. Too many resort to private, unapproved apparitions and visions. Yeah, there are a lot of Catholic channels out there about catechesis. It's not what I do, but yeah, I know what you mean. Some people think that they can just learn the faith by watching, I don't know, random guy on a camera. That's probably not a good idea either. Do I think ID 2020 is the mark of the beast? I think what you're seeing is a system being built that will allow the actual mark to emerge. I don't think ID 2020 per se is, but you're gonna, people have this idea that the Antichrist is going to show up and he's going to snap his fingers and be like, "Boom, look at this, you are now my slaves." In reality, you're going to have a system, you're going to have all the infrastructure there, and you're probably just going to be able to move a couple pieces around, and then there you go, taking advantage of some sort of global crisis. Can you let us know what the Bishop Schneider letter was about? Do you remember if you watched Janess, my video of his letter, the Correcting the Errors of Francis, or whatever it was called, it's essentially part 2 of that. He goes into greater detail. That video was initially approved, and then I put the name of the religion in the title that he was saying we are not the same as, and it immediately throttled that video, so I had to pull it down. Oops, my mistake. But he really goes off on it, and the people who found it on BitChute or on the audio format on my on the podcasting hosting platforms that you can find me on, they all understood why it was suppressed. At this time of day, the comments we need are on Tim Horton. I think the Tim Horton donuts are severely underrated, and I say that as a guy who is now on starting day 3 of keto, and I'm starting to get that perpetual sort of like thirsty feeling from him, which is great. That means my body's starting to shed the water weight. There's a stigmatist that Father Kramer told me about, Antonio Ruffini. Yeah, I always forget to look at him. I like Father Kramer. He's definitely a wild card. Actually, before, when I was new to your channel, I thought this picture you're showing right now is your face, but I just discovered it's Belloc. Haha. Yeah, no, some people make that mistake. I wish that was me. But, Belloc was, as they say, a total Chad. Speaking of Belloc, I have 2 essays from him coming on Sunday. So, yeah. And they're mostly safe. I had to clean the language up slightly, but it's Belloc. He's sort of one of my patrons of the channel, you could say. What do I think of Matt Fradd, especially his Pints with Aquinas podcast? I haven't really listened to Pints with Aquinas. I think any Catholic figure who publicly goes after the sexual revolution is okay on some level, and he's definitely taken more than enough. He's taken enough flack already. Tried Catholic monarchist likes Tried Patrick show. I do too. Well, he's a friend of mine too, so I might be biased. Bosco, thank you, Anth. Thanks for the well wishes, Bosco. Trad Patrick rises. Alb Hyas wants me to get Trad Patrick on. I would. He sort of warned me that he was going to go very spicy here in the next several videos, so he told me to just sort of, not do anything like that for a while. But I do plan to have him back on. Well, that's my conversion story, Anthony. Very convoluted, very long, and sort of took a long time to happen. I said that I would someday. I've joked about writing a book someday called "How Heavy Metal Music Led Me to Jesus Christ," just because it'd be a great title and it would be true. But it is what it is. But I'll talk about it sometime. I need to make pretty much. I need to write a script for it so I don't miss anything. Well, thank you, Jane. I appreciate it. What is this thing that you've heard about? Don't put even the acronym of the movement in the chat, please. It's there. You'll notice everything in society is slanted towards that. They let the people down, bow down before them, and make them kiss their boots. I don't understand. Who are they? What do they want? Go back to my videos last week on communism. That's what you should go look at. Did the dust reach? Have you haven't heard, there are drought conditions on the panhandle areas and high winds up to 75, causing dust storm-like conditions. No, but there hasn't been any dust storms here, at least not yet. But I wouldn't be surprised if it happens. We were supposed to have rain a couple days ago, and that just didn't happen. Bosco Rocks, has Marshall made any public statements about Gordon? I don't know. I don't think so, but he might have. Don't really know. Right now, everyone seems focused on Anne Catherine Emmerich, including Marshall, which is an incredibly good thing considering her insights on the Great Apostasy, False Church. Right, and I've got I've got another prophecy thing for you guys Friday. It's a couple of what I call forgotten prophecies. Please check that out. I'm more and more on team Third Secret of Fatima. It probably revealed at least partially a role of a catastrophic council that would lead to division in the church and the collapse of civilization. And I'm more and more on that team. And I have a couple short prophecy things that I do in a video on Friday. Ignacio says, either way, do not get the thing correct. You're a 20-year firefighter for the federal government. When the soon vaccine comes out and the ID comes out and it's mandatory, I'm quitting. I would not recommend anything from that our billionaire philanthropist and tech CEO is pushing. That reminds me. At the beginning of my video this morning, I think I said that I had 2 videos this week deemed inappropriate. The other one, if I didn't say that, that's what happened. There were 2. And the second one that this happened with was, that video on Kenya and the bishops there that people have asked me to do? Because people have been asking me to do that because I mentioned it in the stream. I made that video. I softened the language up on a lot of it, and they still said no. So I'm going to have to probably re-script it and rewrite it. I mean, a lot of it's right out of my dissertation. So, except my dissertation makes a claim that if the NGOs and the billionaire tech philanthropists had worked with the church and been transparent with them, everything would have been fine. I come to a different take in the video because my committee is a little different. But I would suggest that I don't know. That Kenya video will come either here or next week. It'll be probably on BitChute again. I'm getting tired of putting things over there doing. I wouldn't mind making an exclusive BitChute video. I just don't like having to do it every week. It's getting a little silly. Monarchist says, yeah, keto feels like cheating. Yeah, no, it does. I had my breakfast was leftover pork loin from a roast I made a couple days ago, which is funny because yesterday I put a full-size pork loin in our wood chip smoker, and it was amazing. But I had that in bacon this morning, and I'll have some of the smoked pork loin leftovers for dinner tonight probably. Lunch will be broccoli and cheese and probably salami or something. But I'm doing a weightlifter's variation of keto, which means a higher protein threshold, but still most of my calories from fat, and because you need more protein when you're lifting weights. Just a Tim Hortons ice cap riding up in New York on the way to Vermont to deliver a load. Nice. If you can have a Tim Hortons donut, it's never a bad thing. Can you request prayers for the vocation of the priesthood and monk's life? Also became one. I will say masses for you. I appreciate that. Folks, keep Ryan Garcia in your prayers. He's working at his vocation right now. In monastic life, if you can find a good monastic order, that is a life that sounds incredible to me. You don't know if Teresa doesn't know if the other communist group in the headlines right now would be considered a cult. I would call them that. I'm trying to remember who it was. There was a YouTuber who a couple years ago had done some exposés on the connection, on sort of people who had left that group, or had left a group that was pretty much the exact same thing in California, and it turned out they were a very cult-like group, and local politicians were like the major heads of it. Have I written any articles or books? Well, I'm revising my doctoral dissertation right now, although I don't want that thing to be public. I've written a book review for a peer-reviewed journal a couple years ago. I've got some articles on Crisis Magazine's website. If you go to crisis.com and search my name, and by search my name, I mean actually go into the description of my video. There's a mailing address there. You can just copy the way I spell my name there, and then go to Crisis Magazine's website in their search bar. Put it in there. You'll find 3 articles. They're several years old, but yeah, I've got some stuff over there. I've got a project in the works where I'll be doing a lot more writing, but for now, we're not quite public with it yet. Let's see. AMDG says they received an email concerning a statement made by Bishop Schneider this morning, a half hour ago. Now it's gone. Was it detracted? What do you mean? His statement? I don't think so. I mean, I've got it recorded. It's up on BitChute. Link in the pinned comment of this morning's video. So I don't think it was retracted because his statement was... He was basically... Remember, Bishop Schneider was waiting for Pope Francis to answer his questions about the human fraternity document from Abu Dhabi. And he waited, and he waited, and he waited, and he waited, and he realized he wasn't going to get a response. So last month he did part 1 of his correction, of his fraternal correction, and I put that up and it was just fine. I put part 2 up yesterday to be used today. That wasn't fine. So... let's see. Why are Seeds getting so much hate from FSSP folks? Why is Francis still defended? Well, the Fraternal Society of St. Peter, their hallmark is essentially avoiding controversy. And at least in my experience, some sedevacantists are fine. Others are not. It's like anybody else. Right? So the FSSP in trad circles gets a lot of attacks, and I don't think it's warranted. I'm more of a real believer in a real Unite the Clans thing, which if we're all going to be on the same page, it means, SSPX resistance guys, who a lot of people don't like them, are going to, they need to be at the table. You may not like a guy like Trad Cat Knight, but, maybe he should be at the table for discussing things. Because we all labor under the diabolic disorientation that entered the church. And, we all need to be not stabbing each other in the back. And, I don't have any hate for the sedevacantists. I just don't want people recruiting for sedevacantism in my comment section. And I don't think that's too much to ask. Have I heard of Acts 17 apologetics? I have. I just haven't gone there. Moscow says fast every Friday. My way of keto fasting is interesting. So, on a real fast day, a real true fasting day, instead of like bread and water, I'll typically do a couple protein shakes throughout the day. That'll be it. Keto does not necessarily mean more meat. Well, I haven't found a way of doing a ketogenic diet that it doesn't involve eating a lot more meat than normal people. I've heard rumors of people doing vegetarian keto, and I've never seen it. Because, if you're not, having about a threshold of about 30 to 40 grams of carbs or less per day, you're not really doing a ketogenic diet. I've been in a lot of these purist keto groups over the years, and that seems to be the consensus. Let's see, America is looking more and more like the Weimar Republic every day. Well, I had Jacob Clearfield on, he's a Catholic writer who wrote a dystopian fiction novel set in the future, in a near future America that has fallen to the agents of chaos, and his book is spooky now. That's all I can say. If you want to find it, just type his name into Amazon, you'll find it. His book's called AD 2064, or 2064 Anno Domini, or something like that. I have a copy of it. Anno Domini 2064, looking at it right on my bookshelf, yeah. So I have a physical copy. I'll have him on again soon, I think. You have already chosen an order, Ryan says. the Transalpine Redemptorists, who are both monastic and do missions in parishes. Nice. Out of curiosity, what kind of mass do they say? And again, I'm not one who says anything negative about the... I don't, tell people not to go to, the new mass or anything. I'm just curious. Elb Heiss, it's one thing to defend your dissertation in front of your professors, but it's another thing to completely defend it in front of your viewers. There's that. I'm going to have some colleagues of mine whom I trust to say, hey, is this as bad as I think it is? Because, let me put it this way. I had to make a lot of concessions. I actually made a reference in it to the seamless garment of Cardinal Bernardin. But I also, in the same paragraph, in another paragraph, I cite Cardinal Bernardin positively. Give you an idea. But I also cite Archbishop Lefebvre in the same paragraph. So, it's an inside joke that no one caught, which I think is funny. Got a new member to the channel. I'll get down to there in a second just to see. Father Isaac was ejected from the Fatima Center. Anyone know? No, we don't know why it was. There's a lot of theories going on. Apparently, Father Isaac did ask people to not speculate too much on it. He'll eventually say something. I'm gonna avoid speculating on it. It's just keep Father Isaac Marie Aurelia in your prayers. If you're not familiar with who he is, someone put the proper spelling of his name in the chat or a link to a good video of his, and I'll have to approve it because it's a link and I have to manually approve those. But I'll approve it, and we can get a as long as it's actually really a video of his. I'll start seeing Diamond Brothers garbage in my chat again. But, we'll keep him in your prayers. He needs it because he's one of those priests who courageously spoke the truth. And, of course, what happens. Now that group has gotten so much notice and donation money, how do you think it'll be spent? I don't know. I don't know. What about CMRI? They've always struck me as a kind of a weird group, from what I've heard. But, if they're willing to, the whole thing for Unite the Clans to work is everybody would have to actually be willing to participate with each other. At some point, the onus is on people to be willing to work together. Satan rules Ireland now. You sent me an interview with Archbishop Dublin and his weak response. Yeah, I've got 130 emails in my inbox. I need to work through them. It's just, I'm in the process right now of fixing all the grammatical errors in my dissertation. And when that's done, I will then be taking on the revising my introduction and my outro and then going through and making more changes. So, no compromise Catholic faithful, SSPX resistance here. Hey, I like a lot of you guys, and frankly, sometimes when I take those, how trad are you quizzes that are actually really good ones, I frequently come out closer to there than anything else. 0 day. Yeah, basically, you're correct. It's the kind of thing that I would have to. I'll be probably working against a lot of the stuff I say in there for the rest of my career, and that's fine. I knew that would probably be the case, and I got advice from several traditionally minded priests who understood the Catholic faith, who all said, just get the thing done, so you can do the work of the church. And so, okay. A few years ago, Caddy Senate Vito Dutien, and former Irish politician, said she was speaking with the Bishop of Kilkenny, so the Catholic Church would soon be facing a wet martyrdom in the streets. I'm guessing he meant red martyrdom. Yeah, that's I'm not surprised. Weimar Republic equals Hortler. Or if you mean leads to Hortler too, this time he actually is a Catholic. National distributism. That probably would be better than what we have. Oh, okay, there you go. Mary Carol, welcome. And welcome to that nice level of channel membership. Don't be afraid to, take advantage of the benefit of that, of asking questions that don't get, other people, that get highlighted. Bishop Lefebvre visited Padre Pio before he ordained the 4 bishops. That's all you needed to know. Yeah, he did. Padre Pio was very... I think he was one of those, there's a documentary you can watch on Amazon Prime. At least it was on there. I don't know if it is anymore. And I would hope it's on PureFlix, but again, I don't trust PureFlix because it's a Protestant outfit. But it shows just how much they tried to isolate him. That's why when a lot of the fringier stuff related to him that people say, this may not have been real, I tend to err on the side of checking it out, They say that you normally don't make your dissertation public unless you want to publish it later, but now they put them on the internet. So if you know how to find it, you know how to find it. It really annoys me. Bosco, yeah, the seamless garment of communism. Yeah, the seamless garment of the most atrocious crime ever conceived by human beings is on the same level of unemployment. Yay. These people. That's why you also see a lot of people, a lot of Catholics now taking a very strange side and all the stuff going on in the headlines. Father Isaac Relia. Yep, there it is. People have put his name proper spelling in there. Valiant Angel, your issue with Pope Francis is he doesn't speak out against moral transgressions. You can see the atrocities going on in China, but he remains quiet. Oh, it gets actually a little bit worse than that now. They're talking about re-upping the deal with the Chinese government, which, I mean, I guess they don't have any other choice. Can you imagine what would happen if they decided not to? If Francis came out and just excommunicated those bishops again? I mean, if they hold to heresies like, communism, then they probably are excommunicated already anyway. But if he did that, I mean, the persecution in the country would be far worse than it is now, and that's saying something. You wanted to know the real St. Francis of Assisi, not the environmentalist one. Could you recommend me books, articles, or videos on this matter? Sure. One of the best biographies of St. Francis of Assisi is written by G.K. Chesterton. It's also the author of one of the best biographies of St. Thomas Aquinas. Like scholars on Aquinas say that he wrote one of the best ones on Aquinas. You can get that, and actually the copy I have of Chesterton's Francis biography is also has also the Aquinas biography in it. So you can get, it's like a 2-for-1 that you can get. I would suggest if you're going to buy it, either, I think if my memory serves correctly, because I can't see it on my shelf right now, if my memory serves me, it's published by Ignatius Press, but if not, go to the Chesterton Society's website, chesterton.org, to buy it, because you are then helping a Catholic organization. Always a good thing. There are several good ones out there. The idea that he was, an environmentalist is because he preached to the birds and the trees, which he did to shame people. He didn't do that because these creatures, were rational beings with souls who could understand him. Cardinal George said his successor would die in prison, and his successor would die martyred in the public square. Yes, and I actually did a video once, I think, at the beginning, where I was like, "Dear Cardinal Supich, friend of this channel, how do you feel about that prophecy?" Personally, if it was me, I'd be very nervous, but CCP Delenda Est, yeah, public excommunication should absolutely return. Right. I mean, knowing full well that every Catholic politician out there who is pro-legal medical Moloch worship has excommunicated themselves automatically. I mean, think about that. That's law of the church, right? Voting for them is a slightly different, doesn't automatically excommunicate you per se, but typically the people who would do that also hold to other errors that, functionally put them outside the church, at least in my mind. Inquisition should return. I'm not against the Inquisition. I think it got a bad rap in history. Some of the American legal tradition, including presumption of innocence until proven guilty, comes from them. James Martin will soon say that Aquinas was a member of the James Martin Brigade. Martin is a disgrace. Yeah. You grew up with the Novus Ordo and was so irreverent, goofy, and boring that you could not take faith seriously until you would discover there's traditional mass. I've been to irreverent Novus Orders, but they're really, really hard to find. Fidelity podcast about Our Lady of Guadalupe. I have not done one yet. I actually plan to, because I want to do a video on the Triumph of the Immaculate Heart, and to give you a spoiler alert, I suspect the Triumph of the Immaculate Heart that we hear about in the Fatima message. If you look at the Age of Marian Apparitions providing warnings, I tend to put Our Lady of Guadalupe first, even though there's not a real warning there. I think that there's we can look at it as a book ending, and that's going to tell us what the Triumph will look like, except on steroids. How about uniting the church, just go back to Mass without all this crazy social distancing and no one telling us how to receive our Lord? In an ideal world, that would be lovely. Roseanne says the SSPX didn't close Mass from the faithful. That's not necessarily true. They did in some places. No rules for Mass and social distancing. Why does the NO want us to be fearful inside of God's house, so not comply to government anything inside the church? Some SSPX chapels did close. I would imagine if they, wherever their chapel is in New York City, probably closed. But yeah, no. But in general, I get your point. There were places where they and then some sedevacantists were the only ones providing valid sacraments. Jeanette says your daughter did hers 3 years ago and still hasn't published. There are some in academia who want to publish so they can use her research. By the way, she left academia, too toxic. Right. So I'm starting. To give you a hint, some people I've had on my channel in the past as guests and I are working on something, and because I find academia to be pretty toxic, and like I kept getting comments on my dissertation work because I was making little comments like that suggestion, and they were like, "What do you mean by this?" So I just changed that out. But no, I agree, and that's why people ask, "Are you gonna go teach in a college?" I'm like, nope. The Skittles tribe. Yeah, I haven't had a reason to talk about Cardinal Supich 0 Day. Otherwise, you'd hear me make more reference to friend of this channel. He hasn't been in the news enough or anything major enough for me to care. Like, notice I don't really talk about the priests who have deep-seated tendencies that lead them to, being the kinds of people you don't want around your kids. I haven't covered any of that stuff because after a while, it's there's more things, and there's bigger macro issues, and that's not a macro issue. It's a symptom of the macro issue, and I'm trying to get more down into the macro. Hence why I talk more about why I'm looking into the New Age movement. So, do I think of Nostradamus and his prophecies? Also, documentaries about him are slamming the church because he and a lot of our so-called older brothers were forced to convert. If his prophecies were not approved by the church, then I don't trust them, and that's about it. I mean. And if it's true that he was using some sort of occult methods to get his visions, then I would be very careful. How can we trust priests who refuse to speak the truth and dress like Elton John's parrot? That's a very good question. This is one of the reasons why I started going to the Latin Mass. Well, not just because the Mass is even like the stripped down, they stripped down low Mass is just unequivocally beautiful. I still, it's always reverent. 0 Day, yeah, the SSPX in Maryland closed down, yeah. Manic Monday says he does not go to any church that is taking ID and phone numbers that will be used to round up Christians in the near future. I mean, I would have scoffed at that like 6 months ago. Now I have no idea. So what do I think of Seraphim of Sarov? I don't know. You should send me some information on Seraphim of Sarov. Bosco, I have to approve your comment. It was flagged. He says, whoever you're referring to does not like Catholicism. He mocks it constantly. Not Irish. He's an imposter. Wouldn't probably join in some variation of a prayer service with heretics be instantly excommunicatable also? You would think so, because the law of the church says we're not to pray with non-Catholics. They've softened that lately, but you should go check out what some of the things that Pius X said on this stuff. The SSPX in Ireland were forced to... Oh, I lost where I was. They were forced to close after a policeman and a reporter came into their mass. Don't know what was said, but they closed the next day. Probably threatened to arrest the priest and the if you arrest the priest, you can't have mass, and if you and the priest probably doesn't want his flock being arrested for the crime of worshiping God. Supich blessed a dragon in the HS gymnasium. Oh, of course he did. What do I think of Sister Sasagawa's message 2019 during the Synod? I've done 3 videos on that. My first video on it, I was a little skeptical because all it was being reported on was an obscure website. But then a lot of the Catholic public commentators that I know, and that I don't know, but I trust them, like Mike Church and a couple others, said they actually trusted it. That they had connections to Sister Sasagawa by like 1 degree of separation. So I've done videos since then admitting that I was probably wrong. And even when I had my skepticism, I said the message is unequivocally true because, it was right after the Pachamama thing. But yeah, you can go find it. Just do a search for Akita in my channel search, and you'll find numerous videos I've done on it. Some parishes aren't offering a sign-up for Mass. They will literally be turning people away when they reach the 25% limit. Horrible idea. Yeah, I would rather have a sign-up system for that than just turning people away who make the drive. And I might be biased because my wife and I drive 90 miles for Mass on Sunday to get to a traditional Mass. Ryan Garcia is an Orthodox one. Is he a saint that the Catholic Church recognizes? Because the Catholic Church recognizes some Orthodox saints. Is Nancy Pelosi wearing an African stole kneeling? That's just solving. She'd be the Messiah. In her mind, I'm sure she thinks she's helping. Maud, I'm thank you for the super chat. It is appreciated. And thank you for the kind words that went with it. It is appreciated. Archbishop Lori led the invocation at the ethnic protest in Baltimore 2 days ago. He still hasn't fully restored the public mass, of course. Many Jesuit priests are occultists. You know because you were into it and saw and spoke to one of them. KDJ, if you have any published things out there that you know that talks about this, send me something, because I would love to do that. Because one thing I need to do is sit down and read Malachi Martin's The Jesuits, because in that book he just shreds the Jesuits. And if you read Windswept House later, he talks about like how there are orders of nuns involving, who do Wicca and such. So then, not what you're saying there doesn't surprise me. If you have anything, email me a link to any articles online, even if they're from fairly obscure sources, because I would love to do something on that. Have I discussed the history of the schism between the Orthodox Church and the Roman Church, and do you think there will ever be rejoining? I have not done anything on that. I do think that I know that it will be done, because eventually the consecration of Russia will be done, and Russia will convert, and by converting they'll become Catholic again. I take a very hardline stance on Fatima. So yes, the schism will be healed, and there are already signs of the schism healing. It's actually odd that there's some of the technical things have been handled pretty well under the current pontificate. Is it possible not to commit mortal sin? If not, how can we be perfect? I am confused. The saints. Look to the way the saints lived. I mean, a lot of them, started out as sinners, but they became saints for a reason. Brennan Smith, I generally agree with your take. Again, for those who don't know what Brennan is referring to when he talks about the ethnic movement being not a good movement, go check my videos on communism. If you read that organization's guiding documents, it's communist, pure and simple. Let's see. Yeah, Riza, it is sad about what's happened with Baltimore. That was the original C in the United States. The second C in the United States was Portland, Oregon, actually. It was the entire everything west of the Mississippi River. Can't imagine being the Archbishop of Portland in those frontier days. Albus, you saw Trad Patrick's yesterday video where he mean by I think he is. I mean, I don't know if he's at a breaking point, but he's definitely not happy with things, and I'm pretty sure he feels like he's trying to wake people up who aren't being willing to be woken up. Do you think it'll be Pope Francis finally do the consecration? That is a good question. I don't know. A lot of people immediately say no, because either A, because they don't believe he's the Pope, or B, because they don't think he believes, or whatever. But Marie Julie Chihenney, I keep going back to this. There's one of those videos I did recently, a month or two ago, from her, of her prophecies. She talks about a council being called by the church, or a synod, and a pope who has a radical conversion and demands that the bishops, return to the faith and start teaching the proper faith, and they tell him no. I almost wonder that if that kind of disobedience would be enough to excommunicate them, and if that was the case, and all of a sudden there were only a handful of bishops in the world, it would be pretty easy to do the consecration if there were only a handful of actual Catholic bishops left. Has Cardinal Sarah been out in the public eye since the collaboration of their book? Would like to hear his views on recent letters and where he stands. I have done a couple Cardinal. He has issued a couple of letters. Just go search his name in the search bar on my channel. You'll find them. Schronemore, you were on a parish council. The chairman got quite shrill when he said that the Freemasons were automatically excommunicated, were the enemies of humanity. Methinks that they doth protest too much. They are automatically excommunicated. I mean, that's, again, another, the law of the church. But people, the only thing people want you that are okay, have you noticed that in our day, the only people who seem to get excommunicated are either people who are too traditional for them, who make what I would call understandable errors erring on the side of tradition, right? Those are the only people that look like they get excommunicated, and that's fascinating to me. Would be weird if they were to unite with the Orthodox. Would they submit to respective Eastern Catholic Rite churches, or would the hierarchy change? It's strange. I think that what you would see is they would become probably, I don't know, my knowledge of the Eastern rites of the church are not as good as they should be, but they'd probably be just like that. Although I think you would see their patriarch system would probably would be much more robust than in the East. But beyond that, it would be unity. The harder questions about the theology, I'll leave to the bishops and cardinals who have that task of dealing with it. I bet there will be change to the consecration of the Eucharist when the Mass starts again. The Masses in my state are open. There hasn't been a change yet, but we'll see. How to defend the union of church and state? Well, you have to understand how what the church says about church and state. That the church and state's not separate. That they're supreme in their own realms, sort of, but they work together to create a virtuous society. It's not a competition, and it's not alien, not total separation. It's a partnership. Yeah, Bosco, I saw that about that Austrian priest who, I thought it was an Australian. Well, actually, no, I did a thing about an Australian priest who said you can be a member of the lodge and be a Catholic priest, and then the bishops came out and said, yeah, he's not wrong. That's what they said there. So, I don't know what hesychasm is there, Ryan. German church schism is on the cards. If they're not informally in schism already. Caroline, the traditional priest I go to, the closest he does is he puts a mask on just before he gives out communion, but he doesn't wear gloves, and he doesn't make people wear masks. They can if they want to. I've seen a senior citizen wear one, and I saw a random young guy wearing one, but that was it. He started using slightly larger hosts. That makes it when he gives communion on the tongue, there's no chance that he'll make contact, but that's it. Ryan Garcia, why are you asking me about Palamas? Those are the kind of questions you should take to someone like a classical theist or, those kind of people. I'm not a theologian. Jaron, can you go to an SSPX Mass? Yeah, the church says you can go to an SSPX Mass. Bishop Schneider came out and said that the SSPX are not in schism, and he did it on behalf of the Pope, who sent him to go work with the SSPX and to observe to report on their status. He said that, and that's good enough for me. The message given to Sister Saskia was put on ashes and pray a repentant rosary every day. Yeah, and the repentant rosary is not the standard rosary. It's a much longer rosary. And I don't think anybody's doing it, because of course not. Past has the Ukrainian Catholic Church have offered to step down in favor of their Orthodox counterparts if we reunite. Wow. That's really cool. If I were Pope and that happened, I would immediately give those guys as a reward, like jobs in the Roman Curia. It does kind of bug me that the Roman Curia is dominated by Latins. There should be, more representation. Diversity and inclusion. Believe a Pope will be the false prophet? I don't know. I don't know, honestly. It wouldn't. At this point, nothing surprises me. Riza says towards Ryan that you would never call Palamas a saint. Also, there was a council forbidding Catholics to venerate him, specifically for his un-Catholic doctrines. Things have changed now since their relations. He's classical theist is traditionally minded. I'm pretty sure he goes to a Latin Mass, but remember, there's more to being a traditionalist than going to a Latin Mass. There are a lot of people who say you go to a Latin Mass, but then they advocate a lot of modernist ideas. So most people who call themselves traditionalists are not actually traditionalists. They're like neo-trads, and I would not call him a neo-trad. Mentioned the late Canon Gregory Hess also supported the SSPX, whom I love. Gregory Hess, Canon Hess was amazing. Opinions on the SSPX being exposed. I do not answer questions about Church Militants thing. Period. Full stop. Also, to give you the only hint I'll give you about that is I stopped using them as a source, and that's it. Bishop Schneider is a saint. Well, he strikes me as probably on the path to sainthood. But beyond that, living saints I get a little iffy about. Am I driving? No, I'm not. I call it the early morning drive stream because this is the time of day people go on their early morning drive. Have a nice day, Bosco. Pope Francis, you think, is the worst pope in history? Well, there have been some pretty bad popes in history. There's a book that I need to read on this called The Vicars of Christ by Charles Coulomb. He goes over some of the more noteworthy popes. But, he might be. I don't know. Not necessarily my place to say, per se. Well, let's see what else is going on here. Let's go back to Novena News. Oh, here's an article. All right, everybody. I hope you're sitting down for this one. Headline from novenanews.com. An important ecumenical sign. Movement to lift Luther's excommunication gathering steam. The movement to lift excommunication still hanging over Protestant reformer Martin Luther is gathering steam, with one Catholic theologian explaining that such a move would be an important ecumenical sign. There's your state of the church right there. Okay, so who's this Catholic theologian? Be particularly significant. University of Tübingen theologian Johanna Rahner. Rahner. Is Johanna Rahner the daughter or granddaughter of Karl Rahner? Let's find out. Let's see. Study theology. Individual records, web links. As a German Roman Catholic theologian, she's a professor of dogmatics. She's dogma and ecumenical theology at Eberhard Karls University. Yeah, no, this is not a person to trust. Rahner is part of the group of some 30 Protestant and Catholic theologians, the Altenburg Ecumenical Discussion Circle, that on Pentecost launched an appeal to Pope Francis to rescind his predecessor, Pope Leo X's 1521 condemnation of the great Protestant leader, lamenting that the anathema still in place is like a bumper block in a way of greater Christian unity. There's a reason he was excommunicated. The bloodshed that resulted in that is just astonishing. No, thank you. These people, man. And they did it on Pentecost. They did that on Pentecost. Think about that. That is just so gross. Didn't Our Lady see the Rome would be the seat of Antichrist? Yes, Our Lady did say that. That doesn't mean the Pope would be the Antichrist or be the forerunner, though. It will take a bad pope to make a great pope. Whoever follows Francis, if they are faithful men, will work really hard to clean up the confusion. Will make many great saints. Hopefully, that's what I'm hoping for, Shawnee. But I think to get that good pope, given the state of the hierarchy, will require some very good. It will take some very deep soul searching, probably in a time of crisis, or something horrible to happen. Laura, this is a new listener. Very well. Thank you for checking it out. Since you're not going to a traditional mass, is that considered invalid enough to fulfill the obligation? I am not one who has ever said that going to the new mass is invalid. There are people who say that. I am not one who takes that position. I have said that, I know for a fact that I've gotten the Eucharist at the new mass before. Our Lord truly present. I know for a fact that I have. I also know some of the very best Catholics I've ever met, some of the most saintly Catholics I've ever met, have been going to the new mass. It's not a position I take. There are others who disagree, and that's their opinion. The reason a lot of people, there have been people who've been had their excommunications lifted after their passing. They want to do it for political reasons, embracing the errors of the Reformation to more Protestantize the church. What to do with being the only tried-minded and loves the Latin Mass in a family? I fall under that, and I am the youngest in the kids, so please guide me. I'm hoping that you can get to that you're going to be of age soon enough to be able to go to a mass on your own. I'm guessing you've brought the issue up with your family to try to talk to them about why you think that going to a more, how I would actually do it is I would first try to get them to start going to a more reverent Novus Ordo if you can find one. Start that way. Caroline, there's a repentant rosary on YouTube. Oh, put a link in the comments and I'll approve it. Have I heard if POTUS responded to Vigano? He has never responded to Vigano. Ever. He's made some offhanded comments, I think that's about it. Andrew Cook totally thought I was on my long morning commute. Nope. You can live stream on YouTube from a phone. I don't know how to do it, and I don't think I'd want to. No more like massive heretical monk who wanted to... Yeah, pretty much. He had if you read his own biography, read Luther's own biography, you'll find out that there's a reason that a lot of Lutherans don't really say much about him anymore. On Hess's video, he talked about how they tried to exonerate Luther before, but the priest against it prayed, and when those who were pushing it visited the priest, a flaming Luther in chains. Yeah, no, I've heard about that. Is it true Vigano is saying Latin Mass? I've heard that rumor. I don't know. Ernie Sandoval says the Pope is not the Antichrist, and I agree. When the Antichrist appears, he's going to be nearly universally loved. Let's see. Guarded by demons appeared to them at the meeting, and the attempt was ended. Yeah, there's a Canon Hess's talks on that. Interesting. I'd like to see the sources on that. Is the penitentiary rose in the 7 stars of the Mary Rosary? No, it's definitely different. As Reza says, it's definitely different. Like each bead, you're saying like 3 or 4 prayers on. It takes a while. I haven't done it yet, but it takes a while. You change to the Latin Mass for the affliction, and it's the only one you'll return to. Yeah, it's the same. Catholic boxers should rise when the moment calls and fight for the faith. I teach my sons the sweet science of boxing. I have a friend who teaches his sons the sweet science of a specific version of sharp-edged fighting. And he's a Catholic, so yeah. Excommunicated, Shawnee reminds us, does not mean condemned to hell. That is up to God to decide. It doesn't mean, though, that without repentance your soul's in grave and mortal danger. Yeah. Teresa Nelson is very glad that she discovered all of us, but very concerned about the events. Until today, you only found us all after the Paca scandal. You remember, Teresa, how peaceful things were before that? I mean, yeah, we had the screeching in the news about politics, but it was relatively peaceful. Now things have just spiraled out of control almost immediately, starting from there. In fact, if you go back to one of my Akita videos, my more recent one, I just go, the one, it's like, is Akita or is Pachamama related to our current crisis? And I, give you some circumstantial evidence to say that it is, and I don't think it's a coincidence. The Antichrist is said to be charismatic. I would say the guy's going to be as charismatic as anybody you'll have ever seen in history. Nowhere in the Bible does it say the Antichrist will be universally loved. He's going to he's going to fool even the book of the faithful, at least for a while. It does say that he'll fool the elect. He always thought the great apostasy would have better villains. Yeah. Yeah, everything has gone downhill after Paca. Legend, Total War. Ryan Garcia, that question that you get, that claim that you're being asked is that people asking you that are asking it out of total ignorance, because what they're people don't understand what vain repetition is. You know what a vain repetition is? It's where you're just throwing prayers out there, hoping that you'll eventually get something right. That'll make the demon spirit you're praying to happy. That's it. Just go look up the Rosary. There are plenty of apologetics about the Rosary. There's a book called by Father Matteo on Our Lady that I recommend, if you can find a copy of it. I don't know if it's been in print for a long time. I recommend that if you can find it. They already trained the people to love villains, judging by who the heroes of most movies are today. Yeah, most movie heroes today are pretty gross. Michael of Angels, I might, if you want to send me an email. As long as it's not, Medjugorje or something. Or, I don't know. Someone you follow claims veganism on the Antichrist side. I don't agree, but it made you think. I mean, if he is, I get it. The only claim that I could see being remotely plausible is that, Vigano's actions are causing division. That'd be the only argument that would make any sense. Reza recommends Blessed Alain de la Roche and St. Louis, probably de Montfort's Secret of the Rosary. Did I see the Syrian shop owner take a sword out after they broke? I think I saw that. The one that I keep coming back to is the very angry and we'll say intolerant Latino guy in, I think, Los Angeles, who pulled out a chainsaw and was yelling certain words that I can never under any circumstance say. He's got a running chainsaw, chasing people away from his store. Any good Catholic movies? I can't think of a good Catholic movie made any time since the Passion, and before the Passion, since probably the 60s. Shawnee, we just have to look around at the current church and see that the Antichrist will easily be able to fool vast numbers. Yeah, no, that's true. Manic Monday Antichrist will be loved by Jews, and people will believe he is a Christian fighting their corner. Is there any world figure pretending to be a Christian now? No, not really. There is probably not. To be pretending to be a Christian now? Are you trying to imply that? Are you trying to imply that the president is the Antichrist? I'm sorry, but that's so ridiculous. It's ridiculous if that's what you're implying. Please let me know if you are implying that. Just say it nakedly. Again, I have a nuanced take on the president. There are things he does that I don't like the use of the State Department to push the James Martin agenda internationally on countries that have stood against it. I definitely don't like that. I definitely don't like what he's done with the capital, the contested capital of that little strip of land in the Middle East. That's been the cause of so many problems. Don't like that stuff either. But there's stuff that he's done that I absolutely love. So, mixed bag. Yeah, Bishop Schneider does. If anybody asked if Bishop Schneider says the Mass Bitterklinger 100 is right, Bishop Schneider says the Latin Mass. That's why they sent him to he is traditionally minded. Like in the letter that I've tried to put up this morning and it wouldn't go through, he was citing, I think he cited the Second Vatican Council once, but he also cited the Council of Trent. He cited the First Vatican Council numerous times. He cited preconciliar popes in his document. I mean, it was I'm not a big believer in the hermeneutic of continuity, but if you're going to have a hermeneutic of continuity, it would look like something that Bishop Schneider just wrote. But it was a really solid document. The chainsaw was psychological warfare. We should all own one. Division not always a bad thing. Didn't Jesus come to divide? He didn't come to give group hugs and not judge people. A Man for All Seasons is a movie people are recommending in the chat. Also of Gods and Men. The Scarlet and the Black, made in the early 80s. Okay, so I also wonder if there are any contemporary movies that are made that aren't Catholic movies but are very heavily in their Catholic themes. I would like to see that. Stephen Cornett says he thought the second sea in the U.S. was Bardstown, Connecticut, which was the first sea west of the Alleghenies. No, that from what I've heard, it's the first sea was, or the second sea was the sea of Portland. I remember finding that out when I was hanging out with a friend of mine in the Oregon. There's an Oregon museum in downtown Portland, a couple blocks from my campus, and I went there with a friend and we were going through their records, and I found by accident the history of the Jesuits in the area back in the frontier days, and the history of the dioceses. That's where I found that out. Michael Evangels, that is the wackiest theory I have ever heard in my entire life. The same thing that the real person who's the name of the president, whose name is probably a flag term, has been compromised and gone since 89, replaced with no. No. Those movies about the saints, like Song of Bernadette, The Reluctant Saint, Miracle of Saint Therese. Also, maybe that 50s movie about Fatima. The Mission. Yeah, The Mission's actually not bad. Back when the Jesuits were good rabble-rousers. Miracle of Our Lady of Fatima, the 50s version, that's the one I was just mentioned. Passion of Christ, and of course the Don Camillo films, Italian. I'm not sure what those last ones are. What do I think of the Opus Dei? They're a conservative Novus Ordo organization that have got some weird rumors about them. David Myers, thank you for the super chat. It is appreciated. Alfred Hitchcock's I Confess. Oh, there you go. Yeah, I should just do a list of Catholic movies and do that as a second video someday. Sound of Music is Catholic themes. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you heard, but apparently Amazon pulled the Sound of Music down today, or maybe it was Netflix. I don't know why they did that. Given the things going on, the political climate, is there any reason in this? It's been a while since I've seen The Sound of Music. Or was it The Sound of Music, or... No, it wasn't the... I'm trying to remember which is... It's not The Sound of Music, but the one set in the South. Which one was that? But, has Scarlet, and I can't remember the name of the movie. But they pulled it down off of Amazon apparently today, and I don't know why. There's a channel called The Catholic Truth where a guy recently suggested a few movies. Oh, okay. And it wound up being a documentary, The King, an Outlaw King on Netflix. Yeah, but I can't get behind the Netflix thing. They got especially bad after a certain recent American president got a job on their board. You're 2 blocks away from the Archdiocese of Washington. How can he express his pleasure with Cardinal Sarah and our precious parochial school closures due to well-served payouts due to fallen... Over Cardinal Sarah? Cardinal Sarah wasn't involved in any of that, I don't think. The Exorcism of Emily Rose is an interesting adaptation of the true story of Annalise Michel. Right, but was it like Hollywoodized, you know? Because I know it was a smaller budget horror film that got a lot of traction. So considering his double his name, no, because he is not liked enough to have been that figure, and his earthly reign would be 3.5 years, and we're past that now. Salt of the Earth is a great Catholic movie from 1954. The Trial of Joan of Arc. Yeah, I'm just wondering about more recent films, because I just haven't seen any recent films out there. Lord of the Rings are the best Catholic movies. If those movies were a little more faithful adaptations, and they're pretty faithful, that might be good. But the recruitment person came up to me at a charity, asked a lot of questions, what type of job, after determined it was a good paying job. If I made you join Opus Dei? Nope. That sounds like a red flag to me. Andy Kaufman. I laugh at the ridiculous things because, like, and I openly laugh at the Q stuff too. So, you know, you can get upset that I'm reacting that way. I don't care. Like, seriously, like, people pointing out who they think the Antichrist is now is going to just be, they're going to be blindsided when the real thing happens. Okay, so just no. The current president is not liked enough to be that figure. Hate to be the bearer of bad news. Bless the Child with Kim Basinger, very interesting. Really? A movie with Kim Basinger is a Catholic movie. James Hand, Gone with the Wind. Yep, that's the one. I'm pretty sure they just pulled Gone with the Wind down. I don't know why they did that either. Lilies of the Field of Sidney Poitier. See, there's a lot of classic Catholic movies out there. Well, Day of the Siege, about the Siege of Vienna, 1863. What was the name of the documentary that was expelled and had to do with Christians exposing atheists and exposing their fallacious anti-Christian proofs? I don't know if it was 100% Catholics. Huh. The Mission is a good movie. Ooh, Dean, the Gone with the Wind has the R. They pulled down because of the R word. Okay. Are there movies about St. Pius X in English? I don't know. You know what we need is I think there needs to be a Catholic company that takes old Catholic movies from other countries and either subtitles them or dubs them in English and does a good job of it. That would be really cool. It wouldn't make a lot of money. That's why no one's done it, but it would be cool. The World Heavyweight Champion is a Catholic, but not a good Catholic, but a good champion, Tyson Fury. Huh. That might be good. It's sort of like, if you go watch the original Rocky in the movie is Catholic. In fact, there's a scene where he's yelling at a priest from the street up towards a window of his rectory, asking for a blessing. That's a good movie. I enjoyed Rocky. I'm weird that way. Where a Protestant workman helps a group of German. Let's see. There should be movies about Archbishop Marcel Lefebvre. I think there will be someday. A traditional nun said Gone with the Wind was scandalous. Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. Again, it's been forever since I've seen it. The Bells of St. Mary's is probably the quintessential Catholic movie. Pretty sure that's a Christmas movie, too. Romero, yeah, you're gonna have some people. You're gonna get some pushback on that one from people because Romero is one of those figures who a lot of people don't like because they basically believe he sort of imbibed of liberation theology at the end. I don't know if he did because what I've read of him, he seems like he was trying to find like a middle ground between it. I don't know, but then again, he was also killed while saying the Mass, literally raising the Eucharist for consecration, which is an interesting way to go out if you're a priest. Patrick Coffin had a good one on the It's a Wonderful Life. You don't know why people want Trump to be a milquetoast guy. I don't know why. I mean, part of me would like to see what he could do if he was just unleashed, but the only R word is ramen in your dictionary. I think we should adopt the word ramen as our fill-in word for the other R word that they throw at people like us. The Patriot and Apocalypto were pretty good. Yeah, Mel Gibson movies. Was The Patriot really Catholic, though? I mean, have a hard time with action movies, you know what I mean? I like action movies, but, Where does the purge of everything that offends the leftists end? Well, go back to the French Revolution. Go see where that ended. It ended with Robespierre meeting his own justice and the rise of one of the probably forerunners of the Antichrist becoming emperor, Napoleon Bonaparte. Usually, a lot of people consider him to be sort of a type of, if you understand typology. That recent monster movie with John Krasinski, I don't know which one that is. The Count of Monte Cristo, probably assuming you mean the original one, probably not the remake, because that remake, even though it had, our favorite, everyone's favorite Catholic movie star in it, it's a lot darker than the original. Although I want to go check that out again because I don't remember it. The miracle, Our Lady statue comes alive and replaces the novice's place until she comes back to the convent. Man who became Pope is pretty good. Rocky II's wedding scene was filmed in a church in your city. Nice, Rizo. I have the Rocky box set, but I've never watched Rocky 5. Pam, I mean, I like the Rocky movies in general. I just like that whole, the fact that you have a hero who doesn't always win. I find that very endearing. But I haven't watched Rocky 5 because I have been warned by everybody I know who says that movie was a train wreck. Rocky was good, too many sequels. Yeah, and they keep making them, too. It's amazing. That's my favorite joke from Spaceballs, that really terrible, crude, crass comedy I don't necessarily think is a movie a Christian should watch. But there's a joke that always stuck with me, and that's they're talking about how Rocky 5000 was coming to theaters. It's hitting close to home. It's Wonderful Life. There was awesome Italian movie about Padre Pio, done somewhat recently. I did see that one on Amazon. My wife and I watched that a few months ago. It was a good movie. Something like Miracle Man of Pietruscino. Let's see. The miracle would have said Our Lady's statue came alive. Okay, let's see. Can The Godfather be considered a Catholic-based movie? It's your favorite movie of all time, but the family scenes and the being Catholic is definitely a strong element despite the killings. I don't know. The church has excommunicated the mobsters repeatedly for good reason. There should be movies about Pius IX, Francis de Sales, John of the Cross, Alphonsus Liguori. Can you imagine a movie, an honestly done movie about the revolution in Italy that led to the conquest of the Papal States, and having Pius IX and Leo the 13th in that movie? That could be a cool movie. A lot of people are like, haha, at the church's situation in that, but man, that'd be a cool movie. I need to believe no salvation out this side of the church, but can baptized Protestants that live with little mortal sin at least get to purgatory until the end of time? Could they have the opportunity to convert in purgatory? That's well above my pay grade, but I would hope that anybody who had honestly been. Question I've always had on this is: have people who have been indoctrinated to believe that the Catholic Church is the great whore of Babylon and all that stuff? People who have been conditioned, so they're no fault of their own on this, really. Well, I always wonder what kind of chance they give. All things considered, if they were as close to a living saint as you could be while holding that error, I always wondered. Pam Crimpton was like Star Trek, too many sequels. Yeah, I think they probably made too many sequels with that original cast, and then didn't do a good job with the sequels in that next cast they had for Star Trek. I've seen the first Creed movie. I haven't seen the second one, so I don't know. At least in that way, if they're going to keep that franchise going, keep making boxing movies, which usually boxing movies are always an interesting character study if they're done halfway decently. They've already said if there's a Creed 3, you're not going to see Rocky Balboa in it. He'll be retired at that point. Rocky 5, awful. If I had to say that in caps, don't watch it. Terrible. Yeah, and then I watched a video on YouTube about truly awfully good movies, and they had a racing movie. They were talking about a racing movie that had Stallone in it that was essentially the exact plot of Rocky 5, but with cars. Cinderella Man, after death one cannot convert. Yeah, there's that. Very Catholic Church shown in the good movies. Michelle P., I had to approve your comment. Who was the one that disliked this video? There are always people who do. There are people who will literally dislike everything I do, and there are people who will go in and search the comments for people being critical of me, and then upvote their comments. I don't know why people do that. I don't subscribe to people I don't like. Do I believe we're in the end of days? I think we're at the beginning of the fulfillment of the Fatima message. That's what I think we're at. Psalm 23 says, you've read that the Catholic monarch emperor will fight the false Messiah and be killed at the Mountain of Olives. I've read that. I would love to hear more about some of that stuff, though. What did I just do? I clicked on something. There we go. Godfather 3 has the interesting take about the death of John Paul I. Yeah, there's a lot of people who had that take. I recommend reading Malachi Martin's Vatican. He goes a lot into that. If you really want to know a history of the scandals in the church going from World War II through the papacy, the early part of the papacy of John Paul II, read that book. It's really just him putting all the news stories together in the form of a story. It's magnificent that way. Did I notice that they made the Joker Catholic in the latest movie? Was he always Catholic in the lore? That I don't know, and I haven't watched the Joker movie yet. I kind of want to, but at the same time, I hear it is so over the top in its intensity and its violence that it's one of those you got to have a special kind of, you have to have a stomach for that kind of thing, and so I'm kind of nervous to watch it. But I hadn't heard that he's Catholic. There was a movie about St. Vincent de Paul. It's French with subtitles. Yeah, see, there goes. There, see, again, I would love to see a Catholic company out there who, there are horror movie peddlers out there who take old horror movies, B and C level movies, and they repackage them in DVD with a good format and actually put them out on Blu-ray. And they sell them for cheap, and they make, good money doing that. Why can't there be a Catholic company that does the same thing? Zero Day seems like they're trying to pin Catholic and crazy together. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. Four Brothers with Mark Wahlberg has Catholic themes. Yeah, I remember that. I saw that movie once a long time ago. Four brothers who are of different they're not really brothers. They're brothers in that, brothers in arms kind of way, but they're, live in a bad neighborhood. And I don't remember what happens in the movie, but it's a pretty violent movie. They stand up as the heroes in that. Brother, Sun, Sister Moon is the best and most authentic ever about St. Francis. Just kidding. Godfather's enjoyable, but yeah, not Catholic. It literally has Michael say he renounces Satan for the child he's becoming the Godfather to and knocking off people at the same time. People who believe in Islam go to heaven. Extra ecclesiam nulla salus, right? We should do a movie ourselves of the rad trads. What do I think of the new Fatima movie coming out soon? I haven't seen much about it. I did a video that made some people mad about the documentary that's coming out about the alleged fake Sister Lucia that's going to come out 2 days before that movie on broadcast television. As in, a lot of Catholics are going to see this documentary about Fatima, and they're going to watch that. And people got mad that I even did a video on that, but whatever. In the South, so many are indoctrinated to hate the Catholic Church, and it would almost take a miracle to break that indoctrination. Thanks for not dismissing the question. That is a question that I have pondered for a long time, and I would love to get a question from, and I'd love to get answers to that question from, the range of traditionally minded priests. From, from the diocesan hermeneutic of continuity guy who says the Latin Mass, right, to all the way to SSPX resistance and sedevacantist. I'd love to get the Feeney, all of them. I'd love to hear everybody's take on that because that's an important question. It is too late to convert after you die. Yes, it is. I'd love to see a real St. Nicholas movie for Christmas. Mom, why is Santa punching that guy? Tolkien movie was awesome. I've heard that the Tolkien movie tried to downplay his Catholicity. Like, the producer said they didn't see any evidence that his religion was that big of a part of his life, so they didn't include it in the movie. Thoughts on Marshall? Well, I've watched the last couple of his interviews he did, and I scheduled mine this early so that I could watch his interview with Dr. Mazza. I don't touch the question that they're talking about, but I'm interested in it. So, and like I said earlier, I don't watch people I don't, at least like a little bit, so... Alec Guinness became Catholic in the 50s when he played a priest in a film in Normandy, and a little child walked to him thinking he was a priest. That's all it took after they had a chat. Yeah, I always like Alec Guinness. I haven't seen that many of his movies other than, being the nerd. Star Wars and such, but Blue Skies, yeah, there's no salvation outside the church. I mean, remember also there's the fewness of the saved as well. Not many people are saved even inside the church. But, yeah, this is why, but I always wonder because the church has never said that means that some non-Catholics aren't given extraordinary graces, if they are, their death or whatever. That's ultimately up to God. The church has always said that. So that's why I always wonder, the people who have been conditioned to believe that the Catholic Church is the most evil organization in history, how about those people? Christopher says the Joker is overrated. Well, in an era when pretty much every comic book movie coming out is terrible, maybe overrated still means it's just decent. All out of African polar bears is nothing Catholic and Joker. Yeah, that would have been my assumption when it came out. But they apparently said they tried to make him Catholic, so I don't know. Pam Crampton says our Godfather and the Godfather 3 just understand the implications and the true cast of characters, and Immobiliare is based on real stuff. The term "the true faith" is a real code phrase meaning uncorruptible. And that is what you got to know. When you read, I keep telling people to read Malachi Martin's Vatican. You can find it on Amazon in paperback if you need to. You can find it on abebooks.com or eBay. I found it in hardback a couple of years ago. I read it. It took a little while because it's not a small novel, but it's the same thing. He just changes the name of characters. He makes up a couple characters, including his main character, who he says is made of is a representation of him. 189. Well, have a nice day to you as well. Speaking of Father Isaac, so sad he's not with Fatima Center. It is. I'm not going to speculate on why he's not there. He asked us explicitly not to. Keep him in your prayers, though. Aaron G. He's happy that he caught us live. Your wife and you want to move away from the big city in Houston, way up north. Could you recommend a good small town? Depending on what you mean by way up north. If you're meaning Oklahoma, well, it depends what you mean by a small town. I'm fond of the town I live in. I moved to Oklahoma into this town I live in, and the Catholic University that was located here closed, which is why I moved here. So I took a job elsewhere in the state, and when that job didn't work out, I moved back to this town. What do I think of the recent Father Brown series? I haven't watched it. I've heard that it's not as good as the original Father Brown television series, and I have the Father Brown novels. I really think people should read at least some of those novels before they... I didn't get very far in Chesterton's Father Brown series, mostly just because I just haven't had time. What about The Exorcist? The Exorcist, I mean... From what I've heard from Exorcist, it's not a very accurate depiction. But if it got people thinking about the faith, then on balance, good. And it certainly doesn't glorify the enemy, and that makes them... They're the bad guy, right? Yeah, let's see. Someone just said something about that Fatima Center is actually on a list of remember how we say it here? We call them anti-Hebrewites. And so are the SSPX and a lot of other trad groups. Don't take those lists seriously. I know people who take those lists and go, ooh, I got to check those out. Yes, a real St. Nicholas movie, let's make a petition. I would only want to see it done by the guys who made Paul Apostle of Christ or made by Mel Gibson. But even then, I didn't even like Paul Apostle of Christ. I have my nitpicky things of that. Don't be sarcastic. Even Kim Basinger can be Catholic and saved. I wasn't being sarcastic. I was just not aware. What are my thoughts on Voris? No comment. Everyone should watch Alec Guinness and Dr. Zhivago. I haven't seen Dr. Zhivago. I should check that out. Look at the director promo about the new Fatima movie. It centers on prayer in general and showed interfaith prayer to include the Ishmaelites. That's a problem. I would like to see a movie of the 16 Carmelites who sang a hymn before they were... There is a movie about the 16 Carmelites, and it's Mike Church's website, the Founders Trade and Post, which is where I buy my coffee from, by the way. And no, I did not get paid to tell you that. He also sells movies, and I know that they had a movie on the 16 Carmelites. I think it's called Permission to Die. Go check it out. It's go just do Mike Church Founders Trading Post, and it should be one of the top links. Bitter Klinger believes that God reserves a path of mercy for those who fall into the cracks. Yeah, I sort of do too. I just don't want to make sure we don't make an error out of that, though. You know what I mean? The key is to not fall too deep, says Varum. That's true. Pam likes the chat, says it's very much likes the chat. Well, the reason the chat here is good is because of the people who are participating in the chat. I just read the chats and talk to you guys. Alec Guinness was arrested in 1946 for committing actions in a public bathroom. Well, maybe if he had a radical conversion, then God bless him for having a radical conversion. Remember, Hollywood, and we use the term Hollywood loosely to include, the English version of it, has always had those problems. Kim Parnica says Aaron should take a look at Buffalo, Wyoming. Like I said, I like the town I live in. Wyoming is apparently pretty good. Do I remember Father John Carapi? One of the first videos I put up on a Sunday was Father John Carapi. I got some comments from a priest in the chat, or in the comments, saying that it was not good to give him any light. But I do remember Father Carapi, and he is apparently he's still an active priest, but he now keeps out of the public eye. Chilham Road, Maryland is being recommended. Well, thank you, Bill, for checking in from Phoenix. They didn't make Joker a good Catholic. He has a crucifix and icons in his apartment. His mom, who is crazy, has a prayer scene. Agree the movie is less violent and less artistic remake of Taxi Driver. Yeah, there's the channel Blackpilled has a funny take on that movie. How it's, I think he called it the King of Taxi Driver or something like that. He points out that movie is essentially like 4 Al Pacino movies or something mashed together. Or yeah. A couple people saying the new Father Brown series is not good. The Exorcist scared you back to the church, saw it in a drive-in. Good. That means the movie's done some good. The Father Brown series is ridiculous. He is pro-medical Moloch and pro-Skittles lifestyle. There you go. What happened to Father John Carapi? He got involved in some kind of scandal. That's all I know. A good treatment of evil in a movie song Catholic is Hereditary. Yeah, watch the older Father Brown. Seems to be the consensus here. There is sarcasm at worst, but I think any person who, when is corrupted, steps to the plate and says mea culpa. What is my opinion on the right Bible to read? Well, I stick to the Douay-Rheims and the Knox translation. If I have to quote a Bible online, and I can't for some reason get a good Douay-Rheims, sometimes some Douay-Rheims translations are pretty rough, like the older ones. But I go with the Douay-Rheims and the Knox for English. I don't know about like good Spanish language ones. Let's see, the Haydock notes are good if you get the Haydock one. If you also get a Knox Bible too, yeah. You saw a glorious comment on another channel. To paraphrase, the problem with Quebec is too conservative because the government is in bed with the Catholic Church. Okay. Thank you for the kind thoughts, Tim Hickey. Wyoming is too close to a super volcano, but then again, so are most places in the U.S. Yeah. To be way out of the range of that thing, you would need to be living in, the East Coast, basically, or parts of the very upper northwest tip of the West Coast. I wouldn't recommend living in those places. All out of African polar bears says Blackpilled was correct about Joker. Have I spoken publicly about the two Lucias? If not, will you? I have done a video about that documentary about the alleged Sister Lucia thing, and I said in that video, go watch it and you'll see my stance, which is I don't know what the truth is on that, but I plan to watch the documentary because I'm interested in the question. Some things that she said seem a little incongruous with things she said earlier. That's why I'm open to the question, but I don't know the answer to it. Now, let's see. Now we're going to go see to my favorite headline generator to see if they've got anything new. Nope. So we'll close them out. Let's go back to the left-wing Catholic news site. Pax Christi slams sins of... I can't even say that. And systemic violence in the U.S. world. Oh, goody. All right, let's go take a look at this article here from Novena News. Female Deacon Commission member warns of danger of church where women exist only in the imagination of men. So this is a person who's very upset because you may have heard that Pope Francis came out recently and made yet another commission on the deaconess question. Except he stacked it with theological conservatives. That's why you haven't heard people talk about it much. Well, here's one of the members who's not a theological conservative. She's kind of mad. Female Deacon Commission member warns of danger of church where women exist only in the imagination of men. A member of the Vatican Female Deacons Commission has warned of the danger of a church where women exist only in the imagination of men, far from the difficult but life-giving test of relationship. Women make the church exist. Oh, that's amazing. French biblical scholar, there we go, Anne-Marie Pelletier was speaking in an interview in the main number of the Spanish edition of Vatican magazine Donna Chiesa Mondo, Women Church World, a supplement to Vatican newspaper law of Osservatore Romano. That's disturbing that the Osservatore Romano has a supplementary edition like that. In the interview, devoted to notions of care and taking care, Pelletier, a Ratzinger Prize winner in 2014, a member of the Pontifical Academy for Life, and the author of Pope Francis's 2017 Way of the Cross Meditations, stressed the fact that women care for the Church in the way they care for life in general. That is, by caring for the basic needs of the human being, which are the needs of the flesh, which in turn only exist in relationship. Women serve life on the front lines of daily emergencies without restraint, explanations, or organizational structures. Pelletier highlighted, adding that women simply respond to desperation that cannot wait. Okay, I'm not going to disagree. It is necessary that priests learn about the human condition as lived by women. The Virgin as an excuse. She claims that we use the Virgin Mary as an excuse to relegate women to a role of submission and restraint. Ooh, that's amazing. I'm going to put a link to that, so if anybody wants to read that for themselves, because I can only handle so much toxicity. Let's see. The modern Father Brow supported the Transformers in an episode. I like that one too. More than meets the eye. Some people like science fiction too much. I like science fiction. I just don't watch it that much anymore. Exorcist brought a whole lot of people to Jesus, no doubt. Have I spoken publicly? Oh, I already answered that. Some of the best priests around of the new master of the Fathers of Mercy from Kentucky. They do missions. Have I looked at the two photos? You haven't watched the video I've done. You should go watch the video I've done. My cover for that video is the two side-by-side photos. The Knox version has something blasphemous against Our Lady. I'd like to know a citation where that is, because I haven't come across it yet. By using DR and Knox because translated from the Vulgate and don't trust RSVCE Greek manuscript. Basically, I don't trust any new translation of the Bible. I don't trust any post-conciliar ones at all. After Father Kropp was taken off EWTN, he started his Black Sheepdog channel, but it was very me against the world, self-centered. Well, he has I don't know if he's still doing that anymore. I'm pretty sure what I've heard is he's gone from that too. Let's see, a great movie soundtrack is A Place in Time or Somewhere in Time with Christopher Reeves. Great movie. Will bring you to tears in the good way. It's a good love story. Maybe I'll check that out. My wife likes those kind of movies. Rob Doe, go ahead and check the video I did on the two Sister Lucy's thing. The Septuagint is great for the Old Testament. For an English translation, you would probably have to get an Orthodox copy. Let's see. It definitely seemed to be inspired by Malachi Martin in his portrayal of the hierarchy. At least you're honest, but you say you don't know. But I, too, want to know my take. It's a heartbreaking scenario, man, and the motives for it make it very plausible and possible. Well, I said when I did that video that I plan to watch that documentary, and assuming I'm still on YouTube when it comes out, I will probably do a review. It won't be like the typical review with lots of footage. It'll probably be a few screen caps because of how the copyright works. But, again, I don't know what the answer to that is. So my inclination is to say that there's definitely something fishy going on there, especially when you consider the fact that the what do you call it? The seeker arrived a couple years early in the Vatican. He got there in 58 or 59 when it wasn't supposed to be open until 60. And one of the mechanisms to send it to Rome would be her death. So I don't know. Let's see. Love this meme that women aren't respected enough in the church when the first thing you think when you hear about the Catholics is the respect and veneration for Mother of God. Yeah, except they also say that we use the Blessed Virgin, that we use Our Lady as an excuse to, fill in the blank buzzwords from the secular world. Sci-fi is, Schronmore says, sci-fi is not the problem. It can be used to bring people to the faith. It's that thought and reason are completely lacking in some of their minds. Right. So, I like Star Trek and I like Star Wars, but at the same time, that's not my religion. That's just stuff I like, right? Riza says she's going to post a link to the video on the Fatima Two Lucias from Dr. Peter Chosnowski. All out of Africa. I had to approve your comment there, and I have to find where it was. There it is. Let's pray for the warning in the church. No worries, Rob Doe. It's a lot of people are passionate about that, and I understand. You notice I go out of my way not to try to censor people unless they really just get nasty. If they get really, really nasty and become disruptive, I might. But I found out that I'm actually much more permissive in my comments than a lot of other YouTubers, and I sometimes wonder if that's why I get some of the problems I have with the platform. No problem, Rob. Yeah, but check that video out. I did that one. When did I do that one? I probably did that one in March. I gave it a kind of provocative title. It has the two sister Lucys on there. So just go scroll through my channel until you find it. You'll see it's that picture is the cover. What about the Diamond Brothers? Somebody said he didn't trust them at all. They seem weird. That's because they're not, and it's not only because they're sedevacantists, because that doesn't make me not trust somebody per se, but I call them the kings of the grifters, basically. They're not even a monastic organization. They just do their own thing. And the thing is, they do some really well done videos where you'll learn a lot about some. Oh, you meant sci-fi referring to... Well, what happened here? And I got booted out of Chrome. I'm hoping that I'm not unstreaming now, because that would be awkward. All right. Did you guys lose me or not? Because it says excellent connection, so I should still be here. Father Crappie is still a priest. It's what I've heard. I can't verify that, Mike DeVita, but that's what I've heard. They're good against Palamas, the Orthodox, and have good defense of the Immaculate Conception, but they like to fight people, sort of. Yeah, and I try to avoid that myself. The Knox version of the Old Testament, I think, Isaiah doesn't say virgin, but something like young maiden. I don't know. Otherwise, what'd you miss in the last 5 minutes? Me answering questions about random things. Yeah, let's see. How can our mother be an excuse? That's crazy, I know, but again, when your politics become your religion, and your religion becomes a window dressing for your politics, there's a problem. Doesn't matter what your political beliefs are. Always remember that the faith comes way ahead of your earthly politics. Your faith should inform your politics. Have I seen Ingmar Bergman's La Source? Very violent, but in a weird, very Catholic. I have not. I'm not one of these guys who thinks violent movies should necessarily be avoided. Could I do a reading of Pius XI's encyclical addressing real ecumenism? Only conversion to the one true faith brings unity. Yeah, I could probably do that. If you want to give me, send me a link to which one you mean or the name of it, I can find it. The encyclical I have this weekend is something by, I want to say Leo the 13th on the Troubles in Ireland, and it's very relevant to things going on in the headlines right now. Any thoughts on his recent firing? Yeah, total war. I said early at the beginning that I don't think anybody should be fired for their political opinions. Not in a country that professes to have free speech. Somewhere along the line, we decided that we didn't believe that people's rights could be taken away from them by their employer for things they do outside of work. If he had to sit there and gone on some anti that organization rant at work, that's one thing. But he did it in his own time, and employers are falling into the trap of listening to bullies. I don't endorse that at all. Somewhere in Time with Reeves and Jane Seymour is a time travel movie and a real tearjerker. Huh. Oh, good. Yeah, glad the people say I didn't. For some reason, my window just closed. Just everything was gone. But I just opened. Went to opened a new browser and opened up my history and reopened all. It said I have 66 tabs open, and given that I'm revising a dissertation right now and using online peer-reviewed journals, that wouldn't surprise me. Has anyone heard of Seneca Felly or the Dogman? There are many tales about it. Nope, I've not heard of that. Let's see. The Sparrow's about a Jesuit that travels to a new planet with a group of people. The Chosen series, I've heard that it shows Our Lady in birth pains. And if that's the case, then avoid it. Well, Zero Day, if he had Catholic theologians on staff, he should have listened to them when they told him that Our Lady wouldn't have had birth pains, because birth pains are a result of the fall. Let's see. Mr. Joy, yeah, we're a monastic order. Lives in a rural trailer in rural New York and cons people out of their money. Opus Dei. Brian Tweedy, your comment about how you like the Chosen and the actor that plays Jesus is Catholic was I had to approve that. I don't know why. Taking the obligation to receive the Holy Eucharist once per year. That is correct. You only have to receive the Eucharist once per year during Easter. Riza Chitty, has anybody seen your link to the video on Fatima? I haven't seen your link to the video on Fatima. So put it in again. What do I think of the Word on Fire Bible? I haven't seen one. Do I ever fear for my life or what I do? I do sometimes wonder if my family will eventually be targeted if things keep going the way they are. It's my one major concern about the big thing coming up in November. It's my one concern, is that they're not hiding what they want to do anymore. Beth Watkins definitely fundamentally disagrees with the imposter Lucia hypothesis. The only response I have to that is I do not believe for a second that John Paul II did the consecration of Russia to the Immaculate Heart, because he did it the same way that every pope before him did it, and actually every pope since him has done it. And so that's my Let's see, the big thing happening in November? Yeah, first week in November. Look at something happening on the first Tuesday in November in the United States. I should probably calm down the public presence of my personal information. Just look to Tried Patrick for what may happen. Oh, I know. I went a few months ago I started using my real name on Twitter. And that's when I started getting some of the Catholic commentators that some of you like following me, because they all believe that you should show your face and say what your name is and not be a fake name Catholic. And I find that position to be not just tiresome, but deeply insulting to people who are very much aware of what the risks are and don't have the security that some of these other people do. Let's see. I still don't see your link there. I just went through all your yeah, I don't see it. Like a C.S. Lewis take on our world, it has it corrupted, but in the next life we will see it washed clean. Yeah, I don't know, what movie I'd like to see made out of a Catholic book? Lord of the World. That would be a cool one. I'm too afraid to use your real name in social media. I don't blame you, Total War. Technically speaking, what Tim Gordon said is not exactly inaccurate, and they just came after him with a vengeance. Yahoo News opened up with the leader of the Far East land vows to lead in the NWO. Oh, yeah. No, I saw that. I don't know how to make a video about that without getting throttled by our wonderful hosts who, for some reason, really like that government. They probably want to be in charge of the a global social credit system, if I had to guess. Mortalium Animos by Pius XI on Ecumenism. I'm pretty sure I've done Mortalium Animos. Go ahead and look. Just search my channel for that. I think I did that one a long time ago. The Fatima Crusader 3 years ago. That wasn't John Venari, right? Okay, Riza, there it is. Here's the link. Riza shared the link, and I will share it again. There. A Lord of the World movie. It would have to be updated because some of the like sci-fi stuff in there are just so ridiculous now. Like, a little dated, to put it mildly. But the social system is believable. Mr. Joy had to delete your Twitter because you got paranoid about your privacy, even though they don't post anything personal. All right, I'm going to probably end up calling this here simply because I still have dissertation revisions to do today. So I should probably get to that. And so Raisin Sudo says he'll be starting an anonymous movement here in the country for the protection of churches. That's probably a good idea. Honestly, I think that's a good idea. Well, thank you, Aaron G. I appreciate it. No, I don't think your line of questioning was out of bounds. Anyway, you all have a nice day. I'm gonna have to get some work done. So I'll see you all later. I do plan to do my usual Sunday stream after Mass. I'm not sure what time it'll be yet because we're getting to a slightly later Mass, and I should be able to get home in time for 2 o'clock, but those long drives do drain me a little bit. So anyway, you all have a nice day.